Folks, you need to listen up. A major, and I mean a truly significant change is unfolding in the weather pattern across the United States as we speak. This is not your typical late summer transition. We are tracking a powerful and unseasonably intense low-pressure system that has dropped down from Canada. This system is acting like a massive atmospheric bulldozer, shoving aside the warm, humid air that has dominated much of the country for months. Its influence is vast, stretching from the northern Rockies all the way to the East Coast. This is the kind of pattern change that gets our attention because it brings with it a cascade of impacts, from dramatically colder air to the potential for severe weather. It's a full-scale atmospheric reset. The driving force behind this continental-scale transformation is that deep trough of low pressure. Think of it as a dip in the jet stream, allowing a huge mass of cold, dense Canadian air to pour southward. This is not a subtle shift. It is a full-blown atmospheric invasion of Arctic and polar air. The contrast between this incoming cold air and the warm, moisture-laden air it is replacing is the key ingredient for all the weather we are about to experience. This sharp temperature gradient is the engine that will power everything from gusty winds to severe thunderstorms. We are essentially going from the dog days of summer to a taste of mid-autumn in the span of just a couple of days for millions of people. This dramatic pattern flip is what we in the meteorological community refer to as a false fall. It's an abrupt, early taste of the cooler season, but it's important to remember that it's just that, a taste. We are still in early September, and the sun's angle is high enough that this cold snap won't last forever. However, its immediate effects will be profound and widespread. The sheer scale of this low-pressure system is impressive, and its influence will be felt in some capacity by nearly two-thirds of the country before it finally moves out. So, whether it's grabbing a jacket you haven't seen in months, or keeping an eye on the sky for developing storms, you need to be prepared for this abrupt change. We are watching this system with extreme focus because of its multifaceted nature. It is not just a cold front, it is a complete weather-making machine. As this system digs deeper into the United States, it will pull in moisture from the Gulf of Mexico and interact with the lingering summer heat, creating a volatile and dynamic setup. The clash of these air masses is a classic recipe for significant weather. Over the next 48 to 72 hours, we will see this drama play out across the central and eastern portions of the nation, bringing a stark reminder of the power of the atmosphere and the rapid changes that can occur as the seasons begin to turn. Let's break down the main event, this incredibly potent cold front. This is the leading edge of the much colder air mass, and it is slicing its way across the country with impressive speed and intensity. For a vast portion of the nation, this will be the coldest air you have felt in many months. The front is currently making its presence known across the northern plains and the upper Midwest, and it will continue its relentless march eastward. By the time we get to Friday, its influence will have reached deep into the Ohio Valley and even down into the southern plains. The change will be unmistakable, marked by a sharp drop in temperature, a shift in wind direction, and a noticeable drop in humidity. The journey of this cold air is a story in itself. Originating over the colder landscapes of northern Canada, this air mass has been building in strength and is now being funneled directly south into the heart of the U.S. As it moves, it scours out the warmth and humidity. We're seeing temperatures tumble by 20 to even 30 degrees Fahrenheit behind the front's passage. This isn't just a cool down. For many locations, it will feel like a seasonal shock to the system. The air will have that crisp, dry feeling that we typically don't experience until much later in the autumn season, a clear signal that the atmosphere is undergoing a major reconfiguration. The front's progression will be a tale of two different impacts. For areas in the north like the Dakotas, Minnesota, and the Great Lakes, the change will be the most dramatic and lasting. Here, the core of the cold air will settle in for the weekend. Further south, however, the front will gradually lose some of its punch. While it will bring cooler and less humid air as far south as Texas, its effects will become much less significant south of a line from central Georgia to central Mississippi. The deep tropical air mass in the Gulf states is simply too strong and stubborn for this front to completely dislodge it, creating a sharp dividing line across the south. This is more than just a temperature story. It's about the feel of the air. The dew points, which are a measure of the moisture in the atmosphere, will plummet. In places that have been dealing with sticky, oppressive humidity, the air will become refreshingly dry. This will make the cool temperatures feel even cooler. For example, A morning that starts in the 40s will feel genuinely chilly without the blanket of humidity we've grown accustomed to. This transition from a summer air mass to an autumn-like air mass is happening with remarkable speed, and it's a change everyone in the path of this front will feel immediately. Now let's get into the specifics of just how cold it's going to get, because we are talking about the potential for numerous records to be broken. This is not hyperbole, it is a meteorological reality. On Friday, the heart of this cold air will be situated over the central part of the country. Many communities are forecast to experience temperatures that are a staggering 20 to 30 degrees below the average for this time of year. For early September, that is an extraordinary departure from the norm. These aren't just cool temperatures, these are temperatures that challenge the historical record books for their coldness. Let's use Kansas City as a prime example of what we're expecting. The forecast high temperature for Kansas City on Friday is a mere 66 degrees Fahrenheit. If that forecast holds, it would establish a new record for the lowest high temperature ever recorded on that date. Think about that for a moment. In a time of year when highs should be in the 80s, the city will be struggling to get out of the 60s. This is a clear indicator of the intensity of this cold air mass. We will see similar stories play out in cities across the Midwest and Plains, where daytime highs will feel more like late October than early September. The chill won't just be a daytime phenomenon, the overnight lows will be even more impressive. Friday morning is going to be genuinely chilly across the northern plains and the Midwest. Widespread temperatures in the 40s are expected, sending a clear signal to residents that it's time to dig out the warmer blankets. As we move into Saturday morning, the core of the coldest air will settle over the northern tier of the country. We are forecasting the potential for temperatures to dip below freezing in parts of the Dakotas and northeastern Minnesota. This freeze is early enough that it could have impacts on any remaining sensitive vegetation. And there's another element we're watching closely in the coldest part of this air mass. North of Duluth, Minnesota, the air could become cold enough through the atmospheric column that we might see some snow flurries mixing in with the rain. Yes, you heard that correctly. Snow flurries in early September. While no accumulation is expected, the mere sight of snowflakes would be a powerful and tangible symbol of just how anomalously cold this air mass truly is. It is a rare event to see frozen precipitation this early in the season, and it underscores the historic nature of the pattern we are witnessing unfold across the nation. As we head into the weekend, this powerful dome of high pressure and cold air will begin to settle and shift its position. The coldest conditions will become centered over the Great Lakes region. For places like Michigan, Wisconsin, northern Illinois, and Indiana, the weekend will be characterized by crisp, cool, and dry conditions. High temperatures will struggle to climb out of the 60s, and overnight lows will once again dip deep into the 40s in many locations. This will be perfect weather for those who love autumn, but it will be a shock for anyone still clinging to the last vestiges of summer. The cold air will be firmly entrenched and slow to move. The influence of this system will also finally reach the East Coast. By Monday and Tuesday of next week, the refreshing push of cooler, drier air will arrive in the major metropolitan areas from Boston down to Washington, D.C. While the front will have modified and warmed slightly during its long journey across the continent, it will still deliver a very noticeable drop in both temperature and humidity. The oppressive summer-like conditions that have plagued the I-95 corridor will be swept away, replaced by much more comfortable air. It will be a welcome relief for millions, offering a break from the heat and a true taste of the coming season. It's important to note the southern boundary of this cold air's influence. The front's effects will not be particularly significant south of a line stretching from roughly central Georgia across to central Mississippi. The warm, humid, tropical air mass that dominates the Gulf Coast states is simply too powerful and well-established to be fully dislodged by this system. While these areas might see a slight dip in humidity, they will largely miss out on the dramatic cool-down being experienced farther north. This will create a very sharp temperature and humidity gradient across the deep south, a boundary that we will have to watch for potential weather developments. The good news for those not fond of the cold is that this false fall is temporary. While the chill will linger through the weekend in the Great Lakes and Northeast, we are already seeing signs of a change on the horizon. By the middle of next week, a shift in the upper-level wind pattern is expected to allow warmer, more seasonable temperatures to begin surging back northward into the Great Plains. the warmth will gradually expand eastward from there, meaning this taste of autumn, while intense, will be relatively short-lived. But for now, a significant portion of the country needs to brace for a weekend that feels much more like October than September. The clash between the advancing cold air and the warm, unstable air it is displacing is creating a volatile environment ripe for severe weather. We have to be very clear about this risk. For today, Thursday, the Storm Prediction Center has outlined a marginal threat of severe weather in a corridor stretching from New York State all the way down to Tennessee. In this region, the primary concerns are for damaging straight-line winds and the potential for some large hail. These storms will fire up along and ahead of the main cold front as it pushes eastward. The energy is there, and anyone living in this zone needs to have a way to receive weather warnings throughout the afternoon and evening. However, there is a separate and more nuanced threat that we are watching with great concern. This is what I would call a sneaky tornado risk, and it is focused on a different area altogether. This particular setup is expected to unfold this afternoon in parts of Minnesota, South Dakota, Iowa, and Nebraska. This is not your classic large-scale severe weather outbreak, but rather a more localized and conditional threat. The dynamics in this specific region, where the cold air is interacting with low-level moisture and wind shear, are creating an environment that could support the development of a few tornadoes. It's a situation that requires close monitoring. The ingredients for this tornado potential are subtle but significant. We have a strong low-level jet stream, which is a ribbon of fast-moving air just above the surface, providing spin in the atmosphere. When this spin interacts with the lift provided by the advancing front and the daytime heating, it can be enough to get thunderstorms rotating. These types of setups can be tricky to forecast with pinpoint accuracy, which is why it's so critical for residents in these states to stay weather aware. A marginal risk does not mean no risk. It means that severe weather is possible, and you must be prepared to act if a warning is issued for your specific location. This initial round of severe weather is just the first act in a multi-day event. As the cold front continues its journey, the zone of potential severe storms will shift along with it. Today's threats in the Northeast and the upper Midwest are a direct consequence of the atmospheric battle taking place. The atmosphere is trying to balance itself out, and thunderstorms are the most efficient way for it to do so. Our focus is on making sure people understand that even on the fringes of these large-scale systems, dangerous weather can and does occur. Paying attention to the forecast and having a safety plan are absolutely essential. As we move into Friday, the entire weather system, including the cold front and the associated severe weather threat, will shift eastward and southward. The primary focus for severe storms will be over the Ohio Valley, with the risk area extending south all the way to North Texas. This is a large and heavily populated region that needs to be on alert. The dynamics for severe weather will be different from Thursday's setup, but, the potential for dangerous storms remains very real. The main line of storms will be fueled by the remaining warmth and humidity being lifted by the powerful cold front as it sweeps through the region during the day. The Storm Prediction Center has highlighted this area for a reason. They have specifically noted that there is a chance for a tornado or two to develop within this zone. The areas with the most notable risk for this include Kentucky, southern portions of Illinois and Indiana, southern Ohio, and into West Virginia. In this region, there will be sufficient wind shear, the change in wind speed and direction with height, to impart rotation on developing thunderstorms. While widespread tornadoes are not expected, it only takes one to cause significant damage and threaten lives. Residents must take this threat seriously and have a plan to seek shelter immediately if a tornado warning is issued. Beyond the tornado risk, the more widespread threat on Friday will once again be damaging straight-line winds and large hail. As the line of storms organizes along the front, it could develop into what we call a quasi-linear convective system, or QLCS. These long lines of storms are notorious for producing pockets of intense winds that can cause damage similar to that of a weak tornado. These winds can knock down trees, damage roofs, and cause power outages over a wide area. Large hail is also a possibility within the strongest updrafts of these thunderstorms, capable of damaging vehicles and property. This severe weather on Friday represents the most intense and volatile phase of the frontal passage for the central and eastern United States. It's the moment of maximum atmospheric clash before the cooler, more stable air takes complete control. The storms will likely be fast-moving, meaning you will have less time to react once they approach your area. It is crucial to have a reliable weather radio or a weather app on your phone that can provide you with instant alerts. Being proactive and prepared is your best defense against the severe weather that this dynamic system is expected to produce on Friday. While our attention is focused on the massive storm system crossing the United States, we cannot lose sight of the tropics, especially as we are in the peak of hurricane season. The Atlantic Ocean is waking up. The National Hurricane Center has identified an area of disturbed weather located in what we call the Main Development Region, which is the stretch of ocean between the coast of Africa and the Caribbean islands. This tropical wave is showing strong signs of organization, and conditions in the environment around it are becoming increasingly favorable for it to strengthen into a tropical cyclone. There is now a high probability that this system will develop into our next named storm. If and when it does, it will be given the name Gabriel. The conditions for development are nearly ideal. The system is moving over incredibly warm ocean waters, which provide the high-octane fuel that tropical systems need to intensify. Furthermore, the wind shear in the area is currently very low. High wind shear acts to tear apart developing storms, so its absence creates a protected and nurturing environment where the storm can consolidate its circulation and grow stronger. All signs are pointing toward the formation of a tropical storm in the coming days. The big question, as always, is where will it go? Right now, the forecast for the future track of potential storm Gabriel is highly uncertain. The computer models, which are our best tools for predicting a storm's path, are showing a wide range of possibilities. Some models take the system westward into the Caribbean Sea, which would put areas like the Lesser Antilles and Puerto Rico on alert. Other models show the storm making a turn to the north, curving out into the open Atlantic and posing no threat to land. This spread in the model guidance is typical for a storm that is not yet fully formed. We need to watch this system very carefully. Until a well-defined center of circulation forms, the models will struggle to get a good handle on its future movement. However, the potential for a new storm to enter the Caribbean during the peak of hurricane season is something we take extremely seriously. Anyone with interest in the Caribbean needs to be monitoring the forecast for Gabriel closely over the next several days. The environment is ripe for development, and once this system gets its act together, it could become a formidable storm that will demand our full attention. While the Atlantic is brewing a new storm, the Eastern Pacific is already home to a powerhouse hurricane, and it has its sights set on the state of Hawaii. Hurricane Kiko is currently churning in the open waters of the Pacific. This storm has been incredibly impressive, reaching Category 4 strength on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale at its peak intensity. Although it has weakened slightly from that peak, it remains a dangerous and formidable hurricane. Its current track is taking it on a direct westward path, straight towards the Hawaiian Islands. This is a very serious situation that requires the full attention of everyone in the state. The forecast for Kiko as it approaches Hawaii is complex. The storm is expected to move over progressively cooler water temperatures as it tracks westward. Colder water acts as a brake on a hurricane's engine, robbing it of the heat energy it needs to maintain its intensity. Because of this, Kiko is forecast to weaken as it nears the islands. However, and this is a critical point, it is still expected to be at or near tropical storm strength as it makes its closest approach around Monday or Tuesday of next week. It is quite rare for storms to maintain this level of organization and strength so far north and west in the Pacific Basin. The potential impacts for Hawaii are significant, even if Kiko weakens to a tropical storm. The primary threats will be tropical storm force winds, dangerous storm surge, and the potential for flooding rainfall. Tropical storm force winds can cause power outages, bring down trees, and create hazardous flying debris. Storm surge, which is the rise in water level caused by the storm's winds, could lead to coastal flooding, particularly in low-lying areas. And as we have seen time and time again, tropical systems can produce immense amounts of rain, leading to flash flooding and landslides, which are a major concern in Hawaii's mountainous terrain. We also have to mention another storm in the Pacific, Hurricane Lorena. This storm is located off the coast of Baja California. The good news about Lorena is that it is forecast to weaken very rapidly as it moves over cold water and interacts with land. It is not expected to have any significant direct impacts on the United States. However, some of its remnant moisture may get pulled northward and could bring some scattered showers to parts of Texas over the weekend. But our main and most urgent concern in the Pacific Basin remains Hurricane Kiko and its potential impact on Hawaii early next week. After a tumultuous period of record-breaking cold, severe weather, and an early taste of autumn, the atmosphere will eventually begin to moderate. This intense dip in the jet stream that is allowing the Canadian air to pour south is not a permanent fixture. As we look ahead to the middle of next week, the weather models are in good agreement that the upper-level pattern will begin to change once again. The deep trough over the eastern United States will lift out, and a ridge of high pressure is forecast to build back into the central part of the country, signaling a return to a warmer pattern. This warming trend will begin first in the Great Plains. By Wednesday and Thursday of next week, temperatures are expected to rebound significantly, climbing back to near average or even slightly above average levels for mid-September. The cold air will be scoured out, and the southerly winds will return, bringing warmer and more humid air back into the region. This warmth will not stay confined to the plains. It will gradually expand eastward, reaching the Midwest and eventually the East Coast by the end of next week. The brief, shocking cold spell will become a memory as more seasonable temperatures re-establish themselves. This pending return to warmth serves as an important reminder that we are still technically in the meteorological transition season. While this cold front was exceptionally strong for early September, it does not mean that summer is over. We often see these back-and-forth battles between warm and cold air masses during September and October. This particular event was notable for its intensity and the records it is likely to break, but the overall pattern of fluctuation is typical for this time of year. We can expect more of these temperature swings in the weeks and months ahead as we make the slow, but inevitable, march towards winter. So as you prepare for the incoming chill and the potential for severe weather, keep in mind that this is a temporary state of affairs. Enjoy the break from the summer heat if you are in the path of the cold air, but don't put away your summer clothes just yet. The atmosphere is in a state of flux, and our job is to track these powerful systems and keep you informed every step of the way. From the Canadian cold front to the hurricanes in our tropical basins, this is a very active period in weather, and we will be watching it all for you. Stay safe and stay prepared.